Chapter 873. At this time, Trump had already brought Natalia and her son, Viley, to walk through the courtyard. As soon as they met, Emma was really shocked by Natalia's appearance. She had already heard Alex saying that Natalia's temperament and appearance was simply amazing, but she really did not expect it to be so good. At the same time, Emma could not help but feel a little envious of Natalia. After all, it was really amazing for a woman to be able to maintain such a good level of her temperament and appearance when she had already reached the age of 50 or so. Natalia was also a little surprised when she saw Emma. She really did not expect Trump and Elaine's daughter to turn out to be so beautiful and outstanding. At this time, Viley, who was standing next to Natalia, was also a little stunned. He was really surprised at Emma's beauty and temperament. Trump hurriedly introduced them to one another. "Natalia, this is my daughter, Emma." After that, he looked at Emma again before he smiled and said, "Emma, this is your father's old classmate, Natalia Mark. You can call her Aunt Natalia." Emma was really shocked by Natalia's beauty and temperament, while at the same time, she was even more worried about the relationship between her father and Natalia. Compared to Natalia, her mother really seemed to be 1,000 miles away. In addition, the relationship between her father and mother was not stable at all. Now that her mother had such a strong competitor, Emma was afraid that the relationship between her parents would become even more fragile. However, out of politeness, Emma stretched out her hand as she shook Natalia's hand enthusiastically. After that, she greeted respectfully, "Hello, Aunt Natalia." Natalia smiled and sighed before he said sincerely, "Emma, you really look very beautiful." Emma replied modestly, "Aunt Natalia, you're really being too polite. I'm still far behind compared to you." No, Natalia replied seriously, "I wasn't as beautiful as you are when I was your age." After that, Natalia looked at Alex before she smiled and said, "Alex, you're really blessed to be able to marry such a good wife." Alex nodded and smiled slightly before he said, "You're right, Aunt Natalia. This is really my good fortune." Natalia smiled before she started to introduce her son. "Emma, this is my son, Viley. He should be 1 year younger than you, and it stands to reason that he should be calling you his elder sister." Viley hurriedly stretched out his hand to Emma before he said seriously, "Hello, Miss Richard. I'm Viley. I'm glad to meet you." Emma hesitated for a moment because she did not know whether she should be shaking hands with Viley. At this time, Natalia hurriedly said, "Son, Emma is a married woman. You should be more cautious when it comes to physical contact with a person from the opposite sex." Viley came to his senses and he hurriedly withdrew his hand. After that, he smiled awkwardly as he said, "I'm really sorry for my mistake. I acted too rashly." Emma nodded slightly and smiled back at him in response. Alex was really surprised because he felt that Natalia really had extraordinary manners. At this time, Trump hurriedly said, "Natalia, I've already bought all the ingredients and seasonings related to those dishes. They're in the kitchen now. Should we go to the kitchen and start cooking now? The children can have a good chat outside. I'll come in and give you a hand in the kitchen. What do you think about that?" Natalia naturally nodded as she smiled and said, "No problem. Let's prepare a good meal for the children today." After that, Natalia told Viley, "Son, you can stay here and have a good chat with Alex and his wife. You should develop a good relationship with them since you want to develop a long-term business in Oris Hill in future. It would be good for everyone's development in the future if all of you have a good relationship with one another. Young people should communicate and socialize to make more friends and expand your own network." Viley nodded hurriedly before he said, "Mom, don't worry, I know what to do." Trump proceeded to lead Natalia to the kitchen with him before he turned around and said, "My dear son-in-law, there's some good tea on the coffee table. Why don't you make a cup of tea for Viley to try?"